So good morning, Nicholas. Are you ready for this last webinar of the year for the Malaysia Scopus Consortium?
For the country level consortium, yeah, totally ready. I'm sure we have more individual workshops coming up soon, so stay tuned for that.
Okay, so I guess we'll, as always, wait a couple minutes for everyone to arrive.
How's the weather on your side of the island today, Sandra?
Looks sunnier than it has the last few days. It's been incredibly rainy. I do see some sun. How about there?
I think it's sunny for now, but who knows what will happen in just an hour's time. I was just in Bangkok last week, Sandra, and it will be sunny, and then from 2 p.m. onwards, thunderstorms will come in for like the next couple of hours, for next few half day. So it's actually pretty ridiculous.
I was in Kuala Lumpur last week, and it was also rainy some days. But the interesting thing that I found there is I visited several customers, and they said that they recognized me from the webinar series. So apparently we have a reasonable audience for these webinars, which is pretty cool. Today remains to be seen how many people come. The topic is United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So this topic is not really about a product or a service, but it's a bit more about what are the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. What data or information can you find about these in the Elsevier product? So we'll focus mostly on Scopus, but we'll also cover SciVal, as well as some information pages where you can find more information about the definitions of each SDG and so forth. Should we just get started? I guess we're recording this. We can disseminate it later.
Sure, Thunder. Let's go with this.
All right. So welcome, everyone, to this is the 6th webinar for the Scopus Malaysia Consortium for this year. And today's agenda, as mentioned, is the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. But before we get there, I have a really important announcement, which is that we are launching applications process for the Malaysia Research Star Awards 2022. So I'm going to show you that very quickly before we get into the to the rest of the agenda. As always, you can use the Q&A box to ask questions. We're going to try to keep an eye on that and answer your questions as we go along. This session is being recorded. We will share the recording as well as a link to the slides in a follow-up email. And at the end, we will show you how to get access to your certificates if you want to have the certificate. So you might know that Elsevier, together with the Malaysia Ministry of Higher Education, for the last, I don't know if it's been 5 years or so, with the exception of 21 and 20, we've been giving Malaysian researchers awards, which have been referred to as MRSA or Malaysia Research Star Awards. So these have been given a number of years in a row, but they were temporarily paused because of COVID in 2020 and 2021, but they're due to commence again in 2022. This year, our awards are applications-based, so that the winners of the awards are selected on a combination of quantitative research metrics, so based on Scopus data, looking at papers and citations, but combined with qualitative factors. So the application process is important because every researcher can apply, and in that application process, they can indicate, this is my Scopus author profile, and they can submit what we call a personal story, which is information about the impact or the influence that your research has provided, and this will be based on a number of questions that are asked. And this personal story really helps us to understand a little bit more about your research then can be reflected in only publication and citation metrics. So the application process can be done via this link here. You can find more information about the Malaysia Research Star Awards, including a link to the platform and applications process. So I'm going to demonstrate that really quickly. Oops, if I click here. Oh, bless you, Nicholas.
Thank you.
So here, this is a landing page that provides you a lot of information about the Malaysia Research Star Awards 2022 from Elsevier, how it's a little bit different than it's been done in the past, how our new methodology is fully in line with international best practices of research evaluation, the 3 categories that we have for the awards: groundbreaking contributions, societal impact, and research innovations, as well as this platform. So there's a platform by which you can apply, and you can link to that platform here. So I'm going to put this link in the chat. And I'm going to ask all of you, as researchers, whether you're a junior researcher, mid-career researcher, whether you're a very senior person, please consider applying for these awards. You cannot win unless you apply. Please tell everyone you know that if they are interested to win an award and be recognized for the stellar research that they've done, please alert them to this applications process. We really need your help in raising awareness that this year the awards really requiring engagement, right? So if people don't apply, they can't win the award. But there are very good reasons for applying, because by applying, it means that you can confirm which author profile is yours and confirm that it's correct, or potentially make changes if needed, as well as provide that personal story so that everyone can understand really why your research is important, what contribution it's brought to Malaysia, or to innovation, or to developing the field further. And that really helps us and the ministry to tell the story of research in a lot more detailed and meaningful way, which is really a good thing for science. So we appreciate your attention to this, and please tell everyone that you think would benefit from this. So that was the awards. I'm going to go back to my slide deck. But as always, we're going to start with a really quick recap of Scopus. And Nicholas, I think you were going to do that. So I'll just shut up for a sec, right?
Not at all, Sander. So like most of you on the call would know, Scopus has been expanding its content coverage for quite a bit now. And now we have approximately about 88 million items with over 17 million author profiles and over 94,000 affiliation profiles, with 27,000 serial titles being currently indexed on Scopus. So I think one of the key things we've really paid close attention to is how we have been improving on showcasing research insights. So what has progressed over 2021 and 2022 was that we have new functionalities and improved functionalities, including the author profile. We have showcased improved information, such as when you join from the last session with us, on how we are slowly building in preprints information within the author profile on Scopus itself. The entire platform is done and optimized so that you can find relevant and trusted research better than ever before. We are currently running a pilot in terms of the researcher discovery pilot, so that it's better for you to identify experts and to access reliable data, metrics, and tools to support your decisions around research strategy. So not only are you able to get the same trusted data as before, you're also getting more trusted data with increased ways of accessing it. Most of you will be accessing this through scopus.com, which allows you to search for your abstracts and indexes as well as citations. You are also able to access, and we've really improved the author profiles that you see on Scopus, which really showcase and implements algorithmic and systematic author as well as affiliation disambiguation. Our research metrics are being optimized. I would really encourage all of you, for those of you who are not sure on how you can present your own individual article, to also focus on alternative level metrics, right? Such as PlumX itself. Scopus APIs can be used in conjunction with other common identifiers, such as DOIs or author IDs. And also we work together with university ranking bodies and such as Times Higher Education, as well as QS University Rankings to showcase custom data. Sander, next slide, please. But this is over to you.
Okay, thank you, Nicholas. So today's topic is the United Nations SDGs. So what are they? So the United Nations SDGs are Sustainable Development Goals. They are a number of goals that were adopted in 2015, and they replaced the previous goals, which were the Millennium Development Goals, right? But we're past the millennium. We even survived the millennium bug, for those of you old enough to remember what that was. But so in 2015, there's an agenda for 2030. So these are some goals to work up to by 2030 that would address a lot of the key challenges that we face in the world, right? So it's a number of themes. There are 17 themes or goals. And they are things like ending poverty and ensuring equality and ensuring that everyone has education and that economic growth is sufficient across all countries, and climate change. We'll actually look at some of these themes later. I haven't memorized all of them, but I think the really great thing about these themes is it looks at a lot of the topics that research. So when we do science and we do research as researchers and scholars, we're often trying to address challenges and problems that can be expressed in terms of these themes, right? So I think these themes really resonate with people because they're easy to understand and easy to see how they relate to key challenges that the world and humanity faces, right? So they are created by the United Nations, right? So it's nothing to do with Elsevier, the SDGs, but we have stated that it is our goal to do everything we can to ensure that our unique strength in content, data, and analytics help researchers and health professionals make the targets that were set by the United Nations in 2015 a reality. So we, as Elsevier, provider of content, information, analytics, want to, in every way possible, help the research ecosystem be able to drive progress in these very important goals. And we've set up a number of information pages, so you can see the links here. I'm going to again exit the presenter mode. Sorry, it's not listening. There we go. It's very stubborn sometimes. So if you hear, we have a Sustainability in Science Hub, which provides a lot of information about the UN Sustainable Development Goals, including how that information has been actualized in Elsevier's data, including a report that includes SDGs and so forth. So that information page is there. We also have information about the SDG Research Mapping Initiative. So as mentioned, there are 17 Sustainable Development Goals. We've mapped out 16 of those in our data in Scopus, which reflects both in Scopus and SciVal. It's also used by the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings. And we receive a lot of questions about how does that work? You know, how do you define an SDG? Is the definition the same every year? Can I find that in Scopus? Can I find it in SciVal? And so forth. So there's a lot of information on this page. There's also linking to the SDG mapping and linking to our products and linking to information about some initiatives and partnerships that we've had to develop the definitions further. If it seems like a lot of information, don't worry, because we're going to run through it step by step, but that information's all there. It's included in the slide deck. So the definitions, first of all, there are 16 Sustainable Development Goals that we've defined in Scopus and SciVal. And those are evolving. So when we started them in the beginning, they were based only on keywords. So it was a keyword advanced search in Scopus. And that was the results were validated by subject experts in each SDG to validate the accuracy and completeness of the resulting publication set. But by 2021, we added machine learning models so that the definitions were complemented by machine learning. And that machine learning made the collection of documents that map to each SDG more comprehensive. So we had a higher level of completeness without lowering the level of accuracy. So from 2021 onwards, we've included machine learning, and every year the definitions are refined and updated. So therefore, there are different versions of the definitions, and that's something that you need to keep in mind. So for example, Times Higher Education and Impact Rankings will always use the most recent definition, and we will include that definition in SciVal. So as mentioned, 16 of the 17 are available in Scopus and SciVal. Again, you have each one is like a theme. SDG 1 is no poverty, 2 is zero hunger, 3 is good health and well-being, 4 is quality education, and so forth. Different universities and countries have strategies or focuses to perhaps focus on some of these because they align with national priorities, right? And therefore, there may be some need to understand, well, this research paper, which SDG does it fit in? Or if I look at this person, or if I look at a particular university or country, how much research have they done in a particular SDG, and so forth. So we want to make that easier to do in both Scopus and SciVal. The definitions, you can find the actual queries as well as information about the machine learning aspect of it well, we've actually created a digital commons site that provides this information, and I'm going to see if I can exit easily this time. So this is the digital commons page for the SDG definitions. So you can actually download everything about the queries as well as the machine learning aspect of it and the actual data set. So everything is super transparent. You can have access to all of the definitions, to the underlying data to understand it. But keep in mind, there is a level of complexity involved because of machine learning that is it's not super easy to replicate on your own, and that's why we make it easy to access in Scopus and SciVal. I mentioned already that why do we evolve them is because it's something that can get better, right? So we started this and we got feedback, And we have partners, we have development partners to help us improve them. And we've been able to make each category more complete without lowering the accuracy level. So we saw that for example, the 2021 definitions capture twice as many publications as 2020, while keeping the precision very high. So just keep in mind that the definitions change year by year. So you want to be a little bit careful. Which definition do you use? And for what purpose? There is a free layer of SciVal. So I know a lot of you don't have SciVal yet at your university, but there is a free level of layer of SciVal that allows you to look at each SDG and understand at a high level what topics are involved, which papers are involved, and so forth. And as always, the easiest way to demonstrate how you can see the information in Scopus and SciVal is to show you live. So I'll go first to Scopus. Ask you, Nicholas, can you see Scopus? So you, by now, based on our webinars, and most of you know, Scopus is really geared around search and discovery and light analytics. Landing page, I can search by different fields. And I already pre-populated it with Malaysia. It's a great topic. And I'm going to do a search. So there are already papers published with the date 2023, which is always pretty interesting. That science is almost ahead of us in terms of the date sometimes. But if I click on a particular article, so this is an article about Tamil handwritten character recognition in a journal called Computer Speech and Language. If I scroll down, all right, this was not a good example. I guess it doesn't show the SDG. Nicholas, why didn't it show the SDG?
Well, it's probably because it just didn't fall within the category.
Here, so this paper here, Intro Regression of Bacterial Leaf Blight, it belongs to SDG Zero Hunger. So you can see for every paper, maybe not every single paper, I'm not sure the exclusion criteria, but the idea is that for every paper, of course, we will see keywords, indexed keywords, but we will show you which SDG, and it says here very clearly, this is the 2021 definition. And this one belongs to SDG number 2, which is Zero Hunger. If I click on this, it's going to give a bit more information about that SDG, and it's going to offer me to link to SciVal. Where I can see that free layer that I mentioned. And again, here it's going to give an introduction into the SDGs. It's going to offer you to see the definitions in Digital Commons. And then you've got the 16 SDGs that are mapped out here. A lot of those links that we showed you is including the development partners that we have and how we've developed this over time are included here at the bottom. Now, if we look at climate action, why not? So here, climate action, we can see is based on 300,000 papers in a 5-year period. We can see some of the top keywords. We can see the topics and topic clusters that sit within that SDG and the top institutions and top countries and so forth. Now, if you want to analyze that more in SciVal, you do need the SciVal subscription. I believe that in the future, more universities in Malaysia will subscribe to SciVal, but for now, you have access to this free layer where at least you can understand at a high level each SDG, the number of papers and some of the keywords involved. You do all have access to Scopus. So for Scopus, it just becomes part of, at the article level for the moment, you'll be able to see which SDG a particular topic belongs to. And we've made the SDGs a search query. So where do I find that?
You have to scroll down to the bottom.
There they are. So for the moment, that's the SDG 2020 queries. We'll have to see if those get updated. As mentioned before, it's evolving, right? The definitions change over time because they can improve, and everyone's learning how to improve them. But you can define, for example, no poverty. If I click on there, you get the search query. So the newer definitions would complement this search query with machine learning, but this at least gives you insight into the keywords that are used to determine whether a manuscript or peer-reviewed paper, which SDG it will belong to. So if I execute this search query, you see 43,000 documents globally that belong to this SDG. Nick, any thoughts at this point?
Well, when you click on each of these individual articles, this is where you can see how the SDG also come in place. So when you select this article, you can see all of the keywords that were highlighted. You can see that they are now in yellow for you. So you can see how the keywords will actually fall into it. This would actually really help you to understand how it falls under the specific topic itself. So I think we'd go back to the previous page. We can select another option and we can see how and what other SDG topics that possibly could be as well. Yeah. I think because the terminology we use, Sandra, maybe we can take a look at the 2020 and 21 options rather than 22. Yeah. I really like how the keywords all come about here, because we spent some time talking about advanced search. Now you can see how it is that we actually create search terms based on these advanced methodologies. So I do really quite enjoy this, looking at this. And 21, yeah. Let's see. So there you go. We can see that these terms have been grouped accordingly based on SDGs 2021 groupings. So when you select it, you can see that it's not only just within one category, which is no poverty, but at the same time, you see that it falls under peace, justice, as well as strong institutions as well, which is SDG 16. So this is something you may consider looking into. If you're not sure what the definitions are, you can go to the advanced search and you can select each of the SDGs one by one, and you can see what are the keywords that we have mapped accordingly based on this.
And here you can see that this paper belongs to a topic called Boundary Objects, Affordances, and Innovation. If you're wondering what are those topics, let me take a step back and go to SciVal. You might not be familiar with SciVal, maybe you are. So SciVal really complements Scopus with research analytics. And if we look at, for example, the research of Malaysia based on a particular period of years, you might see 188,000 papers, cited 8% more than world average. In subject areas like engineering, environmental science, social science, computer science, and so forth. These are standard subject areas. And subject areas can be insightful. I mean, if we look at Malaysia, you can see you publish most in engineering, computer science, material science. The impact is particularly high in medicine. If we look at the discipline level, we can see health informatics stands out, health policy stands out in terms of quality. Surgery, 1,285 papers cited 73% more than world average. So this is what we call journal-based classification. These are standard classification that are assigned to each journal that's in Scopus. At a high level, you have 27 subject areas, and at the sub level, you have 330 disciplines. But those fields, those disciplines, those subject areas, they never change. They're the same every year, and they're rather generic, right? So engineering doesn't really tell you much about what type of engineering, but if you look at the disciplines, you learn a little bit more about it. Topics is a model that divides science into 95,000 topics. And the topics are, the papers are clustered into topics based on citation behavior. So if I'm citing, my paper is citing Nicholas, and Nicholas is citing your paper, even if I'm publishing in a psychology journal and Nicholas is publishing in a sociology journal and you're publishing in a medical journal, normally you would not group our papers together because we're publishing in different journal categories. But because of citation behavior, you can infer that the topic that we're publishing in is related, right? Because of the citation behavior. So you can see that Malaysia publishes in 25,000 topics. Each bubble is a topic. The circle represents the traditional subject areas, right? Medicine, pharmacology, health, nursing, dentistry, neuroscience, arts, psychology, social science, business, economy, economics, decision science, computer, math, physics, chemistry, right? And so on. Why is this cool? Well, we can identify, for example, what are some of the really hot or highly prominent topics that Malaysia is active in. You can see some of them: internet use, addiction, and gambling. Wow. Or let's look in psychological practice, school improvement, professional learning, subjective well-being, happiness. You can do this at the level of a country, or you can do it at the level of a university or a department or a person. And it includes topics that are new. So this model evolves every year. You get new topics that are born. So you see a lot of topics that are related to COVID-19 that didn't exist prior to COVID-19. So why am I showing you this? We think it's a pretty cool way to understand the structure of science and what topics are being published in. So if I wanted to know, for example, what topics in Malaysia is Malaysia publishing in related to energy research, right? So you see here, you could look at a table view and see fuel tests, diesel engines, biofuel. And you see that some of these topics are incredibly highly cited in Malaysia. Why have I done this? Because we can also, let's go to, last week I visited UKM. So I'm going to go to UKM. And if we look at UKM, all subject areas together, we can look at UKM's research performance broken down by the SDGs. And we can save an SDG as a publication set. So here we see that UKM published a lot of papers in SDG 3, good health and well-being. So what I've done is I've taken a look at these papers for UKM published in SDG number 3, and I've saved them as a publication set so that when I go and access that publication set, just let it load. We can see the topics. So here, when we look at UKM's papers in SDG 3 are being published in these topics here. So you see that it includes radiological findings of COVID-19, good health and well-being. Makes sense, right? Air quality, pollution, environmental pollution, COVID-19, intestinal flora, crash injury. So the way I see it is subject areas are incredibly broad and general, and also not very meaningful in the sense that the SDGs are much more like a theme, a thematic way to look at science. So looking at the SDGs can look at science in terms of a theme that most of us agree, because the UN has been kind of coordinating this. It looks at themes that are important to human development, right? But they're also quite big. So an SDG like good health and well-being can include a lot of topics, and SciVal can help you to understand like a lot of the different topics that map up to the SDG. So that's just FYI. It's interesting to know what topics are, what SDGs are, how they differ from subject areas, and why it could be useful for you. But again, Scopus, often you're looking at an article level, so you can see the article. You can see it belongs to these two SDGs and this topic in SciVal. So that's how it's all connected. Any thoughts, Nick?
No, I really like topics in general. I think they are always a very useful functionality that we can leverage on. So there is a huge push on SDGs, right? And I think Malaysian universities are doing very well in terms of the impact rankings, the Times Higher Education impact rankings, and we have some Malaysian universities ranking in the top 20 globally. I think this is absolutely brilliant. So I think what you could probably do as a researcher is to identify these universities which are producing very strong impact research. You can reach out to them and see if you could collaborate with them on the topics which they are focusing on, or which you are strong in. And I think this creates great collaborative opportunities for you as well.
So Nicholas, in your experience working with researchers in Malaysia, how do they relate to SDGs? Like, what do their universities encourage them to focus on certain things, or how has this been happening in real life in Malaysia?
I think that's a very good question. And I think it really depends on institution by institution level. So for instance, one example that I know of would be USM, and they do have a team and a center where they actually wanted to focus a lot on SDGs, and they've been doing so for some time now. So when everything was rolled out, yeah, they had clear ideas on which areas of research to focus on. So in a way, their topics led to them performing very well in terms of the impact rankings.
Yeah, that makes sense. Anything else we should show them in this demo? I don't know if the chat is enabled or if there are any questions so far. There are no questions. So
no, the chat was not enabled, so I've enabled it so that everyone can now talk to everyone. Yeah.
All right,
so
we'll go back to the slides, and we welcome anyone to ask questions in the Q&A box or to provide comments. We can always loop back to the demo. Resources. So I'm not going to open all of these, but I think it's some of the same stuff that we've looked at before. And the point being that there's a lot of information about the SDGs, how they were created, who we partnered with, what the definitions are, and how those have changed over time. And those are available at the following links. This one, how is this one different from the previous one? Yeah, there's some links to webinars. I think this is a little bit old, so this would have been last year. This one I already showed you, the SDG Research Center at RELX. So just a lot of information for anyone that wants to go there and read about what examples are available, definitions, initiatives, and so forth. That was really most of what we want to present on SDGs, although you can, of course, ask us questions. This is the 6th webinar that we've given this year for the Scopus Consortium in Malaysia. So far we covered in March how can Scopus help me as a researcher? So I believe we focus quite a lot on search and discovery, how to use search terms, how to understand the search results, how to link to out to the publisher, download the full text, how to set up search alerts. I mean, there's a lot of very practical things. In April, we looked at the author profiles in Scopus and how you can access any author profile, but also how you can edit and maintain your own profile. So I think the key thing there is to understand that Scopus algorithmically creates profiles for every single researcher that has at least one paper in Scopus. And it's very good for you as a researcher to find your profile in Scopus and claim it, make sure that it, for example, if you want to link it to ORCID, if you want to change your name to how you prefer it to be, so forth. I think we focused quite a lot on that during that webinar. In May, we looked at research metrics. So as most of you know, Scopus is search and discovery. You can find peer-reviewed content. You can also analyze it. There are a lot of metrics that represent the quantity and quality of research, both at the level of a particular paper, document, or at the level of an author or journal. So we focus quite a lot on understanding those metrics in Scopus, like H-index, PlumX metrics, finding the PlumX dashboard, and so forth. In June, we looked at the content that's in Scopus. Not everyone, I guess Nicholas and I think about this far too much because we work at Elsevier, but not everyone knows which journals are included in Scopus, which conferences. How do you decide which ones are included in Scopus? How do I find the ones that are relevant to me? So we've focused on showing you, teaching you shortly how we select journals, how we deselect journals, how we curate the database, as it were, and how to search for journals and look at the different sources and understand the differences in quality, looking at journal metrics like CiteScore, SJR, and SNP. Just last month, we presented on preprints, topics, funding, acknowledgements. So this one was kind of like we were looking at what topics are left, because I think the first four are really foundational courses related to Scopus. And then we were getting into, you know, what are some things that are important, but most people might miss it or not know that it's there necessarily. So we looked at preprints. We asked you, do you think preprint should be included in the search results, for example? But also funding acknowledgements are an important aspect that are often overlooked. And then today, the SDGs. So we welcome you to ask any questions that have been kind of burning on your minds, that you've been afraid to ask, that remain open at this time. Please feel free to ask them either in the chat or in the Q&A, and then we will address those.
Sandra, we have a couple of questions coming in through the chat.
Okay.
So the first one was, the people were asking if we could send them the slides after the webinar and if we will give them certificates for this session. Certificates,
yes. I know that not everyone, but a lot of people want a certificate. We will share the link how you can claim your certificate. It will be sent to you. No, actually, it will be just showed to you at the end of this. So there'll be a slide at the end of this with a QR code and a link, and you can use that to get the certificate. The slides will be sent to you in an automated email 24 hours from now. Zoom will send you an email thanking you for attending, and it will have a link to download the slides and to the recording. Are there more webinars in your lineup? At the moment, this is the schedule for this year. Next year, we will again have a new schedule. We welcome your suggestions on content, things that you'd like covered. I don't think we should just do the same thing over again. We should always evolve and look at how can we address even the foundational parts in a way that's fun and new. So welcome your comments. Richmond Jr., I'm working on SDG 8 and 12. How can Scopus assist me to get the accurate information? I'm going to actually defer to Nicholas. You're the expert in research workflows, researcher workflows.
So I would say that one very good example, and I think Sander did demonstrate it just now, was to go to the advanced search tab within Scopus itself. And what you can do is to select the keywords that the advanced search was able to use. So focusing on SDG 8 and 12, you can select the two SDGs from there, and then you can create a combined search based on those keywords so that you can actually narrow it down specifically for SDG 8 as well as SDG 12. In that case, you can see what the keywords are like. You can see the top cited publications. At the same time, you can also identify what are the most recent documents being produced in both SDG 8 and 12. And maybe this will give you more ideas on how you can scope your paper. So this is a consideration that you can take.
Alicia, how do I access SciVal? I'm signed in, but the website asked me to check access. So you should have access to the free layer that allows you to look at the SDGs. But the rest of SciVal is subscription based, so the university would need to have a subscription. Hi guys, is there a webinar link as in March, April that we can log into? I'm not sure I understand the question. Is the recording? Yes, we're recording it today. Can we have the previous webinar slide as well? Why not? I'll actually make PDFs of all of the webinar slides and share them at the end of this. Alicia, I understand. Unfortunately, my university doesn't subscribe to the site. Can you? Yeah. So if SciVal is really interesting for you, tell your library. Maybe they'll consider subscribing one day. I think we are looking at how we can make it easier for the universities in Malaysia to subscribe to SciVal. I think I didn't want to disappoint you. Rather, I wanted to point out to you the free layer where you can see the SDGs at a high level. And that actually you can link out from Scopus from the article page to that page in SciVal. Anything else?
I think there was a question if SciVal provides open access or if you need to get the library to subscribe first, or it comes with Scopus sign-in. And I think you did answer that. So yes, you need to get your library to subscribe and you need to let them know about it. Yeah, SciVal does not provide open access, I would say. But like what Sander mentioned, the free layer on SDG allows you to access it freely.
So we're a little bit ahead of schedule. I think that's okay. I'm gonna again remind everyone that we are doing the Malaysia Research Awards with the Ministry of Higher Education in Malaysia, and we're really looking for stellar researchers to please apply. All of the information is available via this link here and the link that I put in the chat. Please spread the word for us. We really would like your help in that. It's open to all Malaysian researchers affiliated to Malaysian universities. That can be either public or private universities. And again, it's a combination of quantitative and qualitative factors. So it's not only how many papers and citations you have, but really the story that you tell about your research and the impact that you've done. So please spread the word, consider applying yourself. And let me know if there are any questions about this. I'm happy to answer it. We're really quite excited about this. If you want to connect with us, you can follow us on LinkedIn. I think more and more we're using LinkedIn to engage with people and to share information and so forth. So if you are active yourself on LinkedIn, feel free to follow or connect with myself or Nicholas. If you're curious about all the musical gear behind me in the studio, I get a lot of questions. Hey, are you a musician? Are you in a studio? Is it a virtual background? It's not a virtual background. There are really like a lot of instruments here. If you're curious what type of music I make, and it is quite alternative music, I warn you, provided the link here. So I think that I wanted to do that in the last webinar to finally answer the question of what do you do with all that gear? Well, the answer is I make music as a hobby, and I picked it up again during COVID because I was locked in this room for about 2 years. So again, engage with us if you want to, of course, completely voluntary. But yeah, we'd love to connect, and please feel free to keep in touch. We will be around. If you're a librarian and you feel that our presence on campus would help to do some kind of a workshop or to meet with you, have a conversation, please reach out either to Nicholas or myself, and we're happy to visit you in our next visit in Malaysia and sit down with you and look at how we can help your library, help your university, your researchers in any way possible. If you're a researcher and you have questions, please direct those to the email addresses, our Elsevier email addresses, preferably not to LinkedIn. And finally, the certificate. So for those of you that just want the certificate, or maybe you want to learn and you want to have the certificate, here is the QR code. I've created a bit.ly link here. I do believe you need the workshop code, which is here. So please take a photograph of this slide if you are planning to get the certificate. I don't always answer the emails that I get that say, hey, I don't know how to get the certificate, because I tend to get too many emails and then I can't respond to them all. So I'm just going to leave this page open for like 5 minutes and say, either use the link now, the QR code now. You need the workshop code, which is capital MYHYAO. If you can't do it now, please take a picture of the screen so that you can do it later.
I've also copied and pasted the link as well as the code within the chat, so that it's easier for you to access it as well.
So we're efficient today. That's good. So we get to win our life back a little bit. So we did that in 52 minutes rather than 90 minutes. I think it's okay. We've, done 6 workshops. We've covered a lot of topics. I'm going to share that and make sure that the email that's sent tomorrow has a package of the PDFs of the previous topics as well, and the recording today's topic. Yeah, again, feel free to keep in touch with us. Suggestions are welcome. Invitations to Malaysia are welcome. It's just next door. And if there are no further questions, we can just wish you a good day, a good end of year. See you around. Take care, and until the next time. Nicholas, any closing thoughts from your end?
No, not at all. I think it's been an absolute pleasure running this year's workshop with everyone who has stayed on with us. And we look forward to seeing you next year again with a new series of workshops. Stay safe and take care.
All right. Take care, everyone. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye all.